All right, everybody. Today we're going to talk about assumptions and data accuracy and missing data. First up, data accuracy. This may seem really obvious, but it's an often overlooked component uh, of of working with data. Uh, it used to be a really big issue when everything was on paper. And I don't want people to think that this issue goes away because you're collecting stuff online. Even electronically collected data is not going to be perfectly clean. And I'll give some examples of my own experiences there. This is generally a process that we call data cleaning, making sure your data are in good order before you start to do data analyses. Now, I know it's tempting. You've got these hypotheses you want to test. You've got your data, and there's a desire oftentimes to just jump right in. But you have to make sure everything is okay first. Everything's accurate. So good data hygiene really a must. Simple things we can do. I mean, these are not complex things. Simple things we can do: frequency counts to scan for out of range values, box plots to identify outliers and to make sure that the outliers are actual scores. Biggest takeaway point here is look at your data. Make sure you know what you're looking at, and make sure that you're confident in its accuracy. All right, I'll give you a couple stories about bad data hygiene. There was a while back an online survey of food insecurity in the Cal State system. I worked on that in analyzing the data. We figured, hey, online, we paid for this expensive survey. Um, Software company, what could possibly go wrong? Well, the survey setup allowed for entry of text rather than limiting to numbers. So when we had questions like how many days over the last 30 did you skip a meal because you didn't have enough food, we all expected people to put in a numeric answer. However, the survey was set up that it would allow any sort of input. So people were typing stuff like once, a bunch, too many to count. And this was probably 5% of the cases where people putting stuff like that in. So we had to recode all of those by hand. We had a data set for each of each CSU campus, so it was 23 different data sets there. This ended up being hundreds of hours of work, tens of thousands of lines of code. I did not do this myself. Two of our grad students, Nina McGath and Brandy Goodspeed, who now is a lecturer here, they worked and they got paid to do this. So big take home lesson is get some pilot data from your intended sample. We didn't foresee that people might enter data like this because we weren't thinking along those lines. So get a good pilot test in so you can uh, uh, cut some problems off at the pass. All right, another story where I had bad data hygiene. In 2000, I was going to present at APS, the Association for Psychological Science, or actually back then it used to be called the American Psychological Society. I had a research assistant who entered data, and after I did all my analyses, it just didn't make any sense. I ended up working for several days, spinning different explanations while putting together my poster, and then finally I actually looked at the data. And it kind of looked like this. And what you might see here is in question 8, it looks like my assistant was probably entering stuff like in Excel at home. And when she copied it to the program we were using, it she missed a column basically. So everything was off. All the answers to question 8 were now in question 9, question 10, and so on down the line. No wonder things didn't make any sense. No wonder none of my measures were reliable. It was because we've got the wrong questions in the wrong places. So what did I learn? Look at your data. I also learned that I should stop telling people to look at their data if I don't actually follow that advice myself. I still had nothing when the data were correct. I learned from this that I'm pretty bad at designing experiments. Probably more lazy than bad, but my experiments never seem to come out. I will, as an aside, the conference was great nonetheless. All conferences should be held in Miami. I learned that I could eat Cuban black beans every single day and with every single meal. I was wearing a guayabera the whole time, and I would often find black beans in my pockets. I also learned that Cuba Libres and fresh piña colada served on the beach Make conferences a lot better. So main take home message here is build some good habits. Run frequencies and graphs before you do anything else. Scan for obvious stuff like out of range values. Automate data collection when possible, but test those automated protocols with people who are naive users, who people aren't people who yeah, I mean, we come in with this expectation. Oh yes, well, a number goes here. Others may not have that expectation. And if you do have something on paper to do something on paper, double data entry seems to be the most important, the best strategy. That is having two separate people do it and checking them.